Like a lot of other people, it was easy to be skeptical when they announced Dexter prequel, sequels, and spin-offs. It seemed like it was just a gut reaction to them seeing how successful financially and viewership-wise the Dexter New Blood was, and I don't blame them. It made sense why they would try to continue and milk Dexter for all he was worth. I'm a huge fan of this franchise, huge follower of it. I've seen every season of the television series at least a couple times, but it was odd. They had a Dexter prequel planned, they had a Trinity prequel planned, and then a Harrison spin-off sequel that nobody was asking for and would eventually become Dexter Resurrections because they realized nobody wants a Harrison show. Just give us more Dexter. Revive him. Do whatever the hell you have to. And I think that they realized they made a mistake when they seemingly decisively ended his story at the end of New Blood. Painted into a corner, they thought, well, let's do all these prequels. Let's do all these spin-offs. Let's just continue the Dexter train a-running. And since it seems so financially motivated, that is where the cynicism is rightfully questioned. Obviously, of those three options, I was the most excited for the Dexter prequel. And, no shit. I want a Dexter show that actually has Dexter in it. But my main question was I didn't really know why they wouldn't just recast Dexter and make a reboot of the series. If Michael C. Hall was done, I don't see why they need to keep working within the confines of this continuity and this original series. Made more sense to me if you want to tell more Dexter stories that you just get a new cast, get a new Dexter, just roll from there. You can make as many new stories as you want and you don't have to work within the confines of that original series, which a prequel was always going to have to. And when the Dexter Original Sin trailer came out, a lot of people thought it looked pretty bad. And from just that initial look, yeah, pretty much everyone that I saw talking about it thought that it looked like they were getting a bunch of impersonators to fill out this cast. It looked like Patrick Gibson was working a little bit too hard or trying a little bit too hard to impersonate Dexter rather than just kind of embodying the aura that Michael C. Hall brought to this role. Michael C. Hall with Dexter is one of those very rare perfect castings that feel almost impossible to recast. It's very difficult to kind of just throw in a younger actor pretending to be a younger version of him and have that work. It was always going to feel a little bit off, but surprisingly, this actually really worked out, and for what it is, Dexter Original Sin is probably the best version of a Dexter prequel that we probably could have gotten. A lot of the issues that you come to expect with a prequel, things like answering questions that nobody was asking for, member berries and cheap nostalgia, although there's some of those aspects of answering questions showing the genesis of things that would become hallmarks of that original Dexter series, they don't really feel like they're just trying to get a cheap reaction out of you or pull the member berries bit. It feels like you're watching Dexter's evolution. And that's the thing that I really appreciate about this, is that it's showing A to B. You're starting to show how Dexter ends up the way he does, kind of him tweaking his methods, getting smarter. By the time we catch up with Dexter at the beginning of the first season of the original show, he is a well-oiled machine as a serial killer. His code is well established. You're pretty much brought into his world where he pretty much perfectly executes these kills, maintains his family, his home life. He's good at deceiving people. He's not socially awkward. He's actually extremely charismatic in that first season. All those things about him are not something that come naturally to a person like this if you're taking it realistically. And I think what Original Sin does so well is that it shows kind of the beginnings of that, the beginnings of him kind of figuring out relationships, camaraderie, and especially because he's Dexter, how to kill people. And it makes sense too, because if you show him gradually getting better socially as a killer, all those things, it makes for actually a pretty compelling narrative in and of itself, because you don't get Dexter's origin really in the original series. You get those flashbacks, you get to see him and Harry, them establishing their code, his first kill, stuff like that. You do get that stuff, but it's not an origin story in the same way that the first Spider-Man is, something like that. It's not a great example, but you know what I mean. They show exactly what Dexter's all about, but you don't see these things gradually change over time. And I think that the show provides that unique opportunity of showing him establishing his relationship with Miami Metro, him becoming a killer, him figuring out how to work all these social dynamics that, as someone who's a psychopath, are completely foreign and alien to him. Like I said, in the original series, you're thrown into it where he already knows Batista, Masuka. He's been working at Miami Metro for a while. He's been doing this for a long time. And with this show, it actually gives you detail into interesting concepts. It doesn't feel like it's ever tiptoeing around the initial continuity. That's another issue that commonly happens with prequels. They are relegated to doing things that are a lot less interesting because they have to tiptoe around the actual concepts that are explored later on in whatever timeline they're trying to tell. But this gives you the most interesting aspects that you would think would be the most interesting aspects of Dexter at this age. The fact that he's very inexperienced, the fact that this is all new to him, and the fact that he's trying to stay in his dad's good graces. I think that him and Harry's dynamic is the most interesting part of this series. Getting more detail into the way that they operate as a family, the way that Harry kind of parents Dexter in this very unique dynamic, that was always going to be the crux of whatever this prequel show would be. You want to know kind of the give and take that happens with this, what happens after Harry finally lets Dexter off the leash. And I think that this is too where the recasts really shine. Although Patrick Gibson doesn't exactly capture what Michael C. Hall makes so great about Dexter, I really do buy into this much more socially awkward and inexperienced Dexter. I think that he does play up some of that awkwardness, some of that social ineptitude in a way that I completely buy. Like, I do buy that this is a Dexter that doesn't get everything yet in the way that he does when he's older. And I honestly think that it's at its worst when it tries to recreate some of these things that older Dexter does. Like I'd say the thing that makes me laugh the most is when they do the recreated intro of Dexter but with this younger cast, and you kind of have Patrick Gibson mimic that little thing that Michael C. Hall does in the original intro. Like, that's the stuff that's a bit laughable to me. But when you actually get into what makes him great as a young Dexter, he does do this well. Not perfectly, but I think he does a very good job for the cards he's dealt. Michael C. Hall as Dexter, those are gigantic shoes to fill. I think that this at least proves that you can provide different and unique angles to Dexter that a different actor could capture. The same thing with Deb. I think that she's very well casted. I think that she probably gets the best as far as mannerisms and capturing that original Jennifer Carpenter performance. Christian Slater as Harry is, I think, very different than James Remar, but you very much buy him as this tough cop that's bearing a terrible secret about his family. I also think that he sells Harry's imperfections very well, but overall, all these things I think stack up to just totally beat the prequel curse. They actually explore interesting aspects of Dexter that you couldn't in the original show. They provide greater detail on those early relationships, but also showing him evolve, get better as a killer, as a faker. It orchestrates them extremely well, and this show is an extremely pleasant surprise. Let me know if you guys have seen Dexter Original Sin. Are you excited for Resurrections? Do you have faith in it? Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.